Have you ever heard about the show Camp? Basically, it's a TV web series that was owned by Rooster Teeth. The show is about a grumpy, selfish, and stubborn 10-year-old boy that hates everything, named Max, where he winds up ending up in a summer camp entitled Camp Campbell, with one camp counselor, and turns out to be friendly and follows the rules and makes sure kids get along, and doesn't do bad things around the place. That counselor's name was David. Normally, Max would hate David in most cases, especially with how annoying he is, including trying to make people happy and have fun. Max even has two friends in the summer camp named Nellie and Nikki. Nellie is usually a scientist boy that likes to invent things and do science crap. Nikki is a girl that's rather nice, but also rough on one another. And another camp counselor named Gwen is basically also grumpy and always irritated Max and gets really frustrated and jealous with most kids misbehaving at the summer camp. And to be honest, I actually happen to be a fan of the show. My name is Harry, by the way, and I've always liked how Camp was always funny, sad, intense, and serious in most episodes, including the season finale. I even happened to watch Season 1 and Season 2 on YouTube on the Rooster Teeth YouTube channel, and this TV show isn't really a kid show, even though I thought it was once. I had heard about it before I started watching it. It's a great show, to be honest, but one day I was searching on the internet about Camp, and I found a website of an MP4 file that said Camp on it. I felt like I wanted to download it because I thought it would be all of Season 1 in one video, so I decided to download it and watch it. It started with the warning that said that this might have disturbing and bloody content in it. It put up a text saying that the episode was called, and it said in red blood-stained style, mass murder. I felt pretty uncomfortable, but I calmly proceeded to watch it. After the normal intro, it started showing Camp Campbell, and it showed only Max, Nellie, Nikki, and David in the cabin, and David started saying happily in every beginning of the episode, "Alright, campers, today we're going to be doing arts and crafts," Maxon said in his grumpy voice. David, do we always have to do the same thing every day? Now, Max, you know the rules. Besides, we could at least just spend time with each other since you've already started getting along with the people in the camp, David replied to him. Yeah, come on, Max, after we do arts and crafts, why don't we go out and play with some water guns like we did last time? Nikki said as she patted Matt on his back to calm him down. But David, Max actually has a point with us doing the exact same thing all the time. Couldn't we at least just go hiking or something? Nellie asked David. Aw, come on, kids. Gwen's out with all the other kids, you know. And all I want to do is spend some time with you three, David explained to the kids. Fuck, Max whispered to himself. Okay, fine, David. I guess we could spend some time with you without those other loser brats in the camp. Alright, first we need to get... Maxon got a dart gun and shot David to be unconscious, as David was about to finish his sentence. He then threw a rock at Nikki and made her pass out as well. Max, what the hell? Max punched Nellie, and he was also unconscious. The screen then faded to black. What's going on? I asked myself. The next scene showed David, Nellie, Nikki tied up, and when they woke up, they freaked out and saw a bloody symbol on the wall and dead bodies on the floor. It was when all the other workers and kids, including Gwen, Max came and said, Hey guys. What are you doing? David asked. Max replies in a very angry voice, Well, I'm just teaching you all a lesson about what you did to me this summer. Like the fact that you bastards did nothing and always turned your back at me and shit. Max then grabbed a knife and stabbed them, and they started crying and screaming in pain. Nikki asked, Why are you doing this? I thought we were friends. Max replied with, I never needed any friends in the first place. They soon then lost their breath and died. Max instantly cheered with joy. Finally, I'm free! Without anyone stopping him, he ran away from Camp Campbell and never looked back. The scene then faded back to show the credits without playing the rap song that they do in every episode. I asked myself, what the fuck was this? I know Camp has stuff like this, but I didn't know they'd do something that dark. I wanted to report this to Rooster Teeth, but thought that they may think that I was stupid and block me. I've had nightmares about it lately. Don't ever find anything weird like this, even if you're interested in the show Camp. And that, my little shadows, was Camp Mass Murder. Although I probably can't put murder in the title, so let's just say Mass Attack. That probably sounds a little bit better. A Camp Lost Episode Creepypasta. My final thoughts on the story? Okay. I have to admit, I'm kind of divided on the story. A part of me wants to hate it, but a part of me also thinks that there, was actually some pretty good parts to the story. Alright, before I actually get into it, let me just say I've never watched Camp before, and I kind of withheld from reading this story for a long time, but to an extent I'm kind of glad that I did actually get to the opportunity to narrate it because, I can actually say that this was a pretty okay episode. A pretty okay creepypasta. But of course, I might consider watching this now because I, might want to know a little bit more about it. But I'm just going to go on ahead and just keep on doing the review. So, that was Camp. My final thoughts. Like I said before, I like it, but I also don't like it. The main reason I can say that I actually thought the story was actually pretty okay is the fact that, there was a good explanation, so to speak. There was a pretty decent explanation, about who Max is, his friends and things like that, and, basically their, I don't know, their basic personalities. And of course, like the way everything kind of more or less went out and, with it not automatically going into extreme gore territory, although it does do that later. But for some reason there was a bit of a charm to the story that I don't really know what to really say. I mean, I like that. I like the fact that I could tell that there was some effort put into it. It's still cliched. There's still problems with it. But at least I could tell that there was an attempt. And I have to commend the author for actually doing that. There was an attempt made on the story that I will admit I'm actually kind of happy with. I am. I also like the fact of the matter that apparently Max is actually kind of crazy to I don't know. I've never watched the show, so I really wouldn't know entirely, but, I could definitely tell that there was a big attempt to try and make something like that. And I have to commend the author for doing that. It actually had a relatively interesting startup, so to speak. It, especially with the episode. Now, with that being said, let's actually get to the negative sides of the story. And that's the cliches that are within the story. The massacre kind of deal. The mass murder kind of deal. Why is that a common trope with Lost Episode creepypastas? Can anybody answer that question? I mean, it's, it's basically something that I'm gonna be completely honest about. The cliches within the story are there, and I think, and they do technically ruin the story a bit. Not a whole lot, thankfully, but still not particularly great. For one, I didn't exactly care too much for, the mass murder kind of deal. Now, if I had actually watched the show, maybe there would be a bit of a more understandable reasoning behind why. But here's the thing. If the mass murder card is going to be played into it, at least space everything out. Have a better, flow to everything within the episode itself. If that was actually the case, then the story itself, it still would be a cliche, but at least it would be understandable about, what exactly would happen. But the deaths, more or less, I thought was just rather bland, to say the least. I mean, screaming and dying and things like that. I mean, and the whole, I'm free, no. Not gonna lie, that was really off-putting for me, personally. I did not like it that much, but, still. Another issue I have with this story is the grammar. The grammar, the paragraph structuring, and the sentence structuring. This is literally made to look like one giant paragraph. People, this is common English, very, very much common English stuff here. Do not sit there and make it all just one paragraph. Space it out every 5 to 8 sentences. That's a common trope that you sit. No, it's a common thing that you sit there and you hear about whenever you, I don't know, whenever you sit there and, you write a story. You always have to separate the paragraphs. That way it flows out well. Having it as just one paragraph only does not work well with the story, and it just jumbles it up and makes it a lot more confusing. There has to be a spot within each and every single storyline, that has paragraphs or something that has to be separated. Another issue is that parts of the story did not exactly have proper punctuation marks in them. For example, there were parts in the story where, there should have been commas, yet there wasn't. And there were parts that ultimately were capitalized that should not have been, capitalized. I'll give an example. And to be honest, I'd actually happen to be a fan of the show. There's a period. My name is Harry, by the way. Period. And I liked how Camp always had funny, sad, intense, serious episodes in the final. Period. What's the problem with that sentence? For one, there needs to be a comma before the way. Because you can't sit there and just have that as one sentence. Specifically seeing how it would work out better is this. And to be honest, I'd actually happen to be a fan of the show. Period. My name is Harry, by the way, comma, lowercase and I liked how Camp always had particularly funny, sad, intense, but there's rather serious moments in most episodes, including the season finales themselves. That right there would have been that's just an example. There are plenty more that could really use some good grammatical changes and things like that. But that's just an example, more or less, of what could be done to sit there and improve more on the grammar. Like with that little example that I did right there, that that actually helped it flow out more. Instead of just saying, my name is Harry, by the way, stop, and then how Camp always has funny and, things like that, you have to add a comma to that. That way everything flows out well, and it's, not just, like that and then, you just move on. That's a very common thing that many stories need to do. Of course, you don't need to have run-on sentences either, because that right there will just, have the person completely and utterly lose their breath. The best thing I can sit there and say on this one that could be worked on is that the story itself could really use a lot more proper punctuation marks, proper sentence structuring, because that's not really the case in the story, unfortunately. And the paragraph structuring needs to be separated and properly dealt with. It's a very common issue, and, now, of course, why exactly am I not yelling and screaming? Well, for one, I'm going to try and not do it as much, unless that's specifically what I'm supposed to be doing, but honestly, there should be a lot more to these reviews than anything, than what I usually do. So yeah, Camp had a good potential, and it actually was, to an extent, slightly enjoyable at, some parts, especially with the beginning of the episode, up until the murder parts. My main advice I can say is fix the grammar, fix the paragraph structuring, remove the cliches that are in there, provide a much better and well-detailed plot, that way everything, flows out well. And if you are going to use the mass murder effect, sit there and actually have everything flow out to the point where everything, plays out well. It is a trope that can be done correctly. Cliches, while they are cliches, if you do implement them properly, you certainly can make them into something good. You can make them into something particularly interesting and very well detailed. That's something that you can certainly do, but in this story, unfortunately, that's just not the case. But of course, like I always say, this is simply my own personal opinion, and if you disagree with it, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of the story would have to be a 4.2 out of 10. It had a good concept. The beginning startup of the Creepypasta episode itself was actually pretty good. But the storyline was pretty cliche, the grammar needs work, the paragraph structuring needs to be fixed up, and the plot line needs to be expanded a lot more, and there could have been a little bit more, added to it, and the cliches need to be eliminated completely, or incorporated within the story to the point where it's actually something believable. If you actually manage to do those things, the story itself will actually go up to a full-on 10 out of 10. But what did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you guys enjoy it? Did you guys not? Also, what would you have personally done to help make the story a lot better? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. I'm the Shadow Reader. Thanks again for watching today's episode. And of course, like always, roll the outro because I'm out. In fear and surprise as your eyes widen, your mouth goes dry with each battered breath. You try to scream, your mind begs to leave, glued to your computer screen. The killers they slash, the tapes burn and crash. The cartridge you bought will be your final haunt. The rituals of hate will seal your fate. The tears you shed will be from the fear-gripping, horror-driven, nightmarish, gore-filled, terrorizing, hateful, burning, violent, rage-inducing, knife-slashing, blood-splattering, silent screams. Only time will tell if you will escape this online hell. Your horror-filled obsessions will come with its own regressions. Your pathetic screams will not be heeded in any way, because your nightmares will come at any day.